So I had one of my daughter's friends around the house the other day, and being of a certain age, they couldn't resist but asked me what it was like when I was younger growing up. And do you know what? The last couple of weeks has been a bit difficult for me with work and various aspects of life. And being asked a question like that suddenly just brought me back to being that child again, that excitement of growing up, born in the 70s, growing up in the 1980s. And I couldn't help myself. I literally just went into a whole conversation with this teenager about how amazing it was being a child in the 80s and how different it is 45 years later or 40 years later, whichever way you want to look at it. So I thought, how cool would that be for a YouTube video? Yeah, I mean, how brilliant. So this video, it's not a self-help video. It's not a, educational video of any sorts. It's a video to open up a discussion, and I'm going to let you know my thoughts and feelings and experiences of what it was like for me growing up in the 80s. And I've got about 8 or 9 different subjects I want to talk about. I try not to waffle on. I try and keep it as quick as I can. Give you loads of little things of memories, maybe, if you're around about my age. And yeah, I'd love to hear in the comments down below. We can have a whole discussion about what it was like for everyone growing up, whether it's you're in the UK or in different parts of Europe, or if you're in, North America, South America, wherever, Canada, Australia, like Asia, just Africa, like everywhere, everywhere around the world. It'd be hilarious to hear how everyone remembers their years of growing up. So I was born in the early 70s. And yes, I can talk about the 70s a little bit. I've got a few memories about it. But I'll be honest, most of my real life vivid memories are from the 80s. And that was when I, became into the 80s, when I was 7 or 8 years of age. And I remember that. And then I went into my teenage years in the 80s. So that's what I want to talk about, that decade there. And we can talk about everything from Commodore 64 gaming machines and ZX Spectrums to ET and Back to the Future and everything. Ford Cortinas, choppers, rally grifters, Action Men, Barbie, like whatever you want to talk about. But yeah, I'm going to start off with what it was actually like for me. Sorry, I got my notes here just down on the table. So I want to talk about what it was actually like for me growing up in the 80s. Well, first thing, straight off the bat, there was obviously no form of communication apart from verbal. You didn't have a mobile phone, so you didn't text anyone going, hey, do you want to come out and play? It was literally a case of screaming for your mum and dad to go, hey, I'm going out to play. And 9 times out of 10, they heard you. And that was the only rule, just to let somebody know you were going out. You'd leave the door, you'd leave your front door, slam it shut. Wouldn't really care about whether you had a key to get in or not. Didn't really matter. You just went out and went to knock for your friends in the neighborhood and knocked on their door. And then you both go and knock on someone else's door. And that's how it worked. You literally knocked to the door. They would either answer the door, or the parents would answer the door, or siblings or whatever. And you'd say, hi, it's so-and-so coming out to play. And 9 times out of 10, I was on a bike, I had a rally grifter. That was my bike of choice. Absolutely loved it. Could do some unbelievable wheelies on that thing. And I had a chopper as well. So that was they were the 2 bikes that I had. And most of the time we were playing in the road, playing football. We would have been playing like rounders or like baseball type thing. And building camps. We had a woodland area just at the back of our housing estate, and me and my friends would go in there and build camps, climb trees, wouldn't really care about getting our clothes dirty. None of us ever thought about food. We just literally would have gone out all day. And our parents, most of the time, either came to the front door and screamed our names, and somebody would hear and tell me to go back home, or we'd just come home when it started getting dark at night. That was literally how it worked, and it was brilliant. You were all super fit. You were healthy. Um, you played games that were really dangerous. I mean, half the stuff would be banned now of some of the things that we got up to. My dad was brilliant at woodwork, so he would build loads of things for us. So we had snooker tables, we had go karts. He used to build go karts. We had I had a bow and arrow. He actually built a proper bow and arrow, which was so dangerous. I don't know how or what was my dad thinking about when he built a bow and arrow. But anyway, yeah, we had just so much fun. It was incredible, and yeah, that's what it was like growing up with all the games on the streets. There were, like I said, there was no computer. We did have a computer, a gaming machine. We had a Spectrum ZX81, and then after that was a Commodore 64. That changed my life forever. I mean, that was just absolutely unbelievable because some of the games I used to play on there, I'd be there for hours, loading up the games. So you had these like cassettes you'd put into the machine, and it would make that noise that most of you, if you're watching, if you're roughly my age, you would know what I'm talking about. And we had all these different games we played, karate games and track and field games and football, and it was just incredible. It was brilliant. I absolutely loved my childhood, had an amazing time, and yeah, it was. Unfortunately and sadly, I do look at kids today, and I think, oh, yeah, they still play out on the street and stuff like that, but it's a lot different now. There wasn't as many cars around, for instance, like when I was growing up. So, and they weren't as fast as they are now. So it didn't at the time anyway seem that dangerous in the 80s. Don't know, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but I know at the time it didn't seem that dangerous. And parents used to sort of let you go out and be out all day. I mean, that was literally how it was. And then we come to the next sort of area I want to discuss is school. I mean, how I mean, good and bad. I mean, no one really likes school, do they? But yeah, we had the wooden desks, that you flick up, and we had the old ink wells in the front of the desk. Now, I don't remember using them, but I think they were probably used in the 60s and 70s. But the school that I went to had those desks anyway, and had the chalkboards at the front. I mean, there was no whiteboards, there was no screens, like nothing like that. It was literally chalkboard, chalk in the hand, and one of those brushes, those eraser brushes to rub the chalk out. It was very disciplined. You got disciplined if you were in trouble, if you were talking. At my primary school, like junior school, so this is aged 4 to 11, there was, I believe the first 1 or 2 years I was there, they were still using the cane, and then I think it got abolished after that. Yeah, I think so anyway. I can't 100% remember. I never got the cane, obviously, so we were lucky there. But we did school plays, and it was just amazing, and the friendships that you had when you were younger were incredible. And parents and yeah, they do a little bit now, but parents were really good friends when you were younger. So they turned up at the school to watch a school play, and there'd be 6 of your friends, and all their parents would be chatting away together, and be really sociably socialize with each other. So that was great. I remember that. Teachers were, well, some of them were a nightmare, really. They were, there was no messing around here. You were screamed at in your face. Some of them were physically abusive. You would have been hit, whacked around the back of the head or the legs or stuff like that. I remember in my secondary school. So again, this is 11 to 16-year-olds. I went to an all boys school, and you'd be on the field, the games field, and I never forget the PE teacher. He'd throw things at you like a discus and stuff. I was so, if you were talking, it was really, it was a nightmare. I mean, it really was. But yeah, there was fights. Obviously, everyone used to have a bit of a punch up now and again because it was a all boys school. But 9 times out of 10, there was teachers that used to come around the corner and they would scream, and yeah, everyone would just run away. That's the way it was. But it was good fun. Subjects, obviously, we didn't have half the subject of, we only had about 8 or 10 subjects you could have done then. I mean, computer science was just being introduced into our school. No one was really interested, apart from a couple of guys that were a bit nerdy and a bit geeky. Well, look at them now. They probably own tech companies and they're like multi-millionaires stroke billionaires. So well done to them. But yeah, at the time in the 80s, if you were into computers, you were a bit of a geek, to be honest, and laughed at. You had to be into sports, if you wanted to be one of the cool guys. So yeah, who's laughing now? Anyway, that was that. And then we move on to the next subject, which is TV. I mean, at one stage, I think in the 70s, there was 3 channels in the UK. Then we had a 4th channel, which was Channel 4, funny enough. And that was it. But the excitement of crowding around the TV, in the early days, you didn't really have remote controls. So, I was the youngest in the family. So guess who was the remote control? Yeah, I have to get up all the time, turn the channel over, either press a big knob or turn it or something like that. But yeah, I was the remote control in those days. And then we did have a remote control eventually, 4 channels. But you know what's so weird is I see my kids now and they sit there, and if they're watching TV, they have probably anywhere between, I don't know, 1,000 channels to choose from. They have so much stuff now with Netflix and Amazon Prime and all the normal channels, Disney Plus. It's crazy. I mean, there is so much to choose from now. And again, YouTube, they're watching YouTube on TV. So, they're literally just flicking. Their attention span is absolutely horrendous. I mean, like 10 seconds, 20 seconds, I'm bored of that. Oh, what movie should I watch? I've got about 400-500 movies to choose from. Oh, I don't know, I can't pick. Again, when I was a kid, that was the movie. If that movie was on, that movie was on. If you had to go to the toilet, if you had to eat your dinner, if you had to, do your homework and you weren't down in time to watch that movie, you missed part of the movie. There was no we did have a video recorder, which I'll talk about in a minute, but most of the time, if it was on TV and you weren't there, you missed it. End of. But you know what? I think that's quite cool. I quite like that. Yeah, videos. We had a VHS video recorder, which, those big, massive, chunky tapes. And we used to go to the video shop and used to pick a movie out on a Friday. And it was amazing. I mean, it makes me laugh so much now. You go to the video shop and the latest movie out by Arnold Schwarzenegger or Sylvester Stallone or whatever, it was out on video and there was a certain amount of copies. And if you weren't there in the shop at the right time, you that was it. You couldn't get a video. There was only like 5 copies or 10 copies of that movie to be rented out, and they'd all gone and you were there and you had to pick some other movie that you weren't that particularly fussed on. But that's just the way life was. It was, sometimes full of disappointments, but it molds your character for when you become an adult. It really does, honestly. It's amazing how I look back now at all the disappointment I had when I was a kid, and I think, oh no, actually, do you know what? It was just teaching me to deal with problems, to overcome issues and things like that. So, but yeah, going to the video store and watching videos was amazing. And then, again, movies, like, oh man, see movies, especially going to the cinema. You had a choice of 1 or 2 screens. That was it. There was no like 10 multi-screen cinema. You can go and choose whatever videos you want. movies you want. It was like one or two screens. It was, again, for me being a boy, you know, 1986, Top Gun came out. You'd go to the cinema to watch Top Gun. Absolutely brilliant. You know, loved it. You were there, and the lady would come round. So during the interval, there used to be intervals, and there was a lady at the front normally holding a tray, and there would be loads of sweets and popcorn and stuff like that. Or you'd get your popcorn and your sweets at the shop, you know, that was just inside the cinema. And yeah, it was great. But like, again, you had to go to get all the stuff from the shop, and then go and watch the movie. And yeah, they were brilliant. I used to love my movie days, my cinema trips, and then what else? Yeah, that was pretty much it. I can't think of anything else on that subject, so I'm going to move on to another one now, which is what were people like in those days? Like, what were people like 40 years ago? Well, there's one thing that I recognise straight away is that people used to fix things. If things were broken, 9 times out of 10, they would know how to fix things. If your car needed an oil change, or your car, the starter motor didn't work, or whatever, like, you always had somebody in the local area. Or if you know, a lot of dads used to learn how to fix things themselves. My dad definitely did. But I remember my neighbours, you know, the dads, and sorry, it sounds a bit sexist, but that's just the way it was in those days. But you know, they were under the cars, you know, fixing the cars and stuff like that. You know, when we were playing football in the street, used to grow things. You know, everyone used to have vegetable patches, and you know, grow vegetables and fruit. Everyone had apple trees and pear trees and plum trees all the time. I just remember so many times when mum and dad used to go out to the garden and pick, you know, had tomatoes and radishes and cucumbers, and yeah, there was just everything was grown, everything was made, and everything was fixed if it was broken, which I I, I just thought was amazing. And it's a I personally think it's a bit sad today that we don't do it as much, not anywhere near. You know, anything's wrong now, you can literally just go out and you know, and buy anything, or you can get somebody just to come around and get it sorted out for you. And yeah, I think it's a bit sad that we don't, you know, we don't do that as much now. Um, and then moving on to holidays. I mean, holidays. I mean, if you went abroad, so for instance, if you're in the UK and you went to like France or Spain or something, that was a big deal. Like, you were sort of like known as somebody, you know, that family had a bit of money, because most of the time, you were going to the coast, like the south coast. For me, I lived in the south of England, so the south coast, or up like the middle of the UK. To certain resorts, you'd go to the coastal areas. There used to be this resort called Butlins, um, and yeah, there was all these like little houses, like chalet type things, and they would have an entertainment on. You'd go up for like a whole week, and it was a big deal. It was a massive thing then. And yeah, so I used to love those. We went on like boating trips, like barges down canals and stuff like that. Tents. We went out, you know, camped out a few times, and yeah, those holidays were absolutely amazing. I mean, they really were. I remember, you know, some of the car journeys to these places. We used to bring my nan used to come with us, so she'd be in the back seat. So my mum would be in the front, my dad would be driving, my mum would be in the front seat, and then you'd have myself and my brother would be in the back seat with my nan. And my nan was a like passive smoker. I mean, she used to smoke like 60, 70 cigarettes a day. So I'll never forget, you know, being in these trips and fighting with my brother in the back of the car, like in the footwells and stuff. I mean, there was no seatbelts. Like, he didn't wear a seatbelt. And I mean, get this, right? You didn't have a seatbelt. You're in the bottom of the footwell, and your nan is there puffing away on a cigarette, and the entire like back of the car is completely, you know, covered in smoke. Like, it's just Absolutely nuts. But yeah, that's what it was like. And they used to take you. Now the journey would probably take about half hour, an hour, depending on where you are. But because of the motorways and things like that, and the speed of the cars now. But in those days, a trip that now takes half an hour, 45 minutes, or an hour, you could be talking like 3, 4, 5 hours. And you'd be stopping off and going about 50 miles an hour on the motorway, and you know, there wasn't any service stations on the motorway. So, you'd have to like pull off and go to like a shop or a petrol station. So yeah, no, it was absolutely mad, but so exciting. I mean, so exciting. So what's next? Where are we? We done holidays. So one of the most exciting times of the year, Christmas, which isn't that far away. Wow, how magical was Christmas in the 80s? Again, we used to have a thing in the UK called the Radio Times magazine, and the BBC. I think it was, oh, I don't know, what was it? Radio Times, and there was two magazines anyway. And like, if I, yeah, drop in the comments because you'll know, you'll remind me because I've forgotten. But used to have magazines, and that would give you the full itinerary for 2 weeks over Christmas of what was on what was on TV and what movies were out, and all the cartoons and shows, things like that. So it was brilliant because he used to sit there. So there was two things we used to do. We used to lie on the floor, and you used to have like a colouring in felt tip or something, and you would go through the toy magazine, and you would start ticking all the things that you wanted, right, for Christmas, that you wanted Father Christmas to get you. So that was like mega exciting because, again, never, ever, ever in the year, apart from maybe your birthday, but it wouldn't even be that big. But Christmas was the time when you went, I want that, I want that, I would like that, I would like that. You didn't get it all, but you still got excited about what you wanted. And then the other part was picking the movies, and you'd literally, you know, we'd go, right, well, you're allowed to pick on this day, and I'll be allowed to pick on this day, and my mum and dad would be there going, well, we want to watch this and we want to watch. So you'd literally work out everything, and sometimes we used to write it down on a bit of paper about what we were going to watch each day. It was absolutely brilliant. I loved it. It was incredible. We had one tree in the house, one Christmas tree. My dad was a bit tight, so we had this Christmas tree, and it was about 20 years old. And he used to put it in a bucket with coal, right? Because it didn't have a base or anything. So he'd stick. So it was like a stick, and he'd shove it in the bucket, put coal in it to sort of stabilize it, and then wrapping paper around the bucket to disguise it to make it look really nice and Christmassy. And during the course of probably its 15th birthday to its 20th birthday, last 5 years of its life, it started to sort of bend over, and my dad, whichever way he did it, couldn't get it straight. So we used to have one of these like wall lights in our lounge. So my dad got a bit of string, so he tied the top of the Christmas tree with string and tied it to this light. Uh, so when you walked into the room, you couldn't see it, but obviously, if you looked to the side, you'd be able to see the string. And then you used to get like tinsel and just wrap it around the tree and do all the decorations and stuff like that. And always coloured lights, never just white lights or clear blue or whatever. It was just multicolored lights, loads and loads of decorations, tinsel and everything, and it was brilliant. It was really good. And you came downstairs. Santa had been there was all the presents, and you just spent basically 3 or 4 days watching TV, eating chocolates, and playing with all your new toys. And I'll never forget the year that I got. I used to play Donkey Kong on what's the what that flip screen? Oh, what do you call it? I can't remember now. Sorry, it's really bad. I've forgotten. But you flick the screen up, and you used to play. It was like a little game console, and you used to play I played Donkey Kong on it. And that year that I got that, I think my mum and dad said to me that I spent 2 days non-stop playing Donkey Kong behind the sofa. Didn't interact with anyone. Didn't watch any movies or anything. I just played Donkey Kong for 2 days. So you wonder why when as an adult you have issues with addiction and stuff like that when you you could see the signs back then playing Donkey Kong for 2 days non-stop. I don't even know if I slept. I probably did sleep, but it wasn't for long. But yeah, Christmases were amazing, and the family would come round. Everyone would be round on Boxing Day, and then New Year's was again great time to be together with the family, and you'd see all your cousins and aunts and uncles, and we'd play board games. I mean, that was the thing. Board games was massive in the 80s. Hopefully it is still now because we still play them. But yeah, board games in the 80s was the thing, like Monopoly and Trivial Pursuit was the latest thing that came out. We'd just play all the board games you can imagine, that are around. Some of them are around today. But there were a lot better made in the 80s. Like quality was really really good in the 80s. I remember the pieces being really solid and thick and good quality and heavy. Talking of quality streets, the tin. I mean, it used to be like a proper tin. Now it's like this little plastic flimsy thing, and yeah, about 10 chocolates in there and then they're gone. But yeah, Christmas in the 80s was absolutely amazing. And then I'm going to end on this one because I just thought it was quite funny. Is dating. So I see now, I have children and they date, and they, some of them have been online before, and but I get totally confused about how it works now because apparently you talk first before you date. But anyway, there was no texting or anything. So if you liked somebody, you struck up a conversation with them, which was really nerve-wracking. And if it went any further, you were allowed to phone the house. So you'd get on the phone, the dialy phone, or the one that had the big, massive buttons on it. And I remember the amount of times I used to phone the house and I go, please, please, please. Hopefully the mum and dad won't answer the phone because I've told her I'm phoning her at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock. And, she said she's going to be waiting by the phone at 5 or 6 o'clock. And anyway, 9 times out of 10, that never happened. The dads normally pick the phone up, and your heart would sink because in a nervous, squeaky little voice, you'd say, "Oh, is so and so there, please? It's Anton." And they'd be like, "Oh, who are you? What do you want?" Blah blah blah. But that was it. That was what dating was. And then the best part was if you arranged to meet somebody on a date, so you were taking them to the cinema or whatever. You would be there, and you'd just have to wait. There was no like, texting, I'm going to be late, or blah, blah. Like you stood there for anything from 5 minutes to an hour, which happened to me on numerous occasions, where you just stand there for an hour waiting for them to turn up. And if they didn't turn up, that was it. You were done. I remember I met a girl on holiday when I was a little bit older, and my kids laugh their heads off now because I met this girl and I really liked her and everything. And there was no mobile phones in those days, so I used to have to walk a mile down the road to a payphone, and then phone her from the payphone. And if she wasn't in, if there was no answer, that was it. You then had to walk a mile back, dejected, slightly upset, But that was life. That was what it was like. And it was like when you meet up with friends or whatever it is, you just had to wait. And it taught you about patience and resilience and all those other things. Whereas now, like I said, it's somebody's, I see kids at the bus stop now and they can't stand there for more than 1 minute, like waiting. It's like, and if they are, they're on their phones. They can't interact with anyone. They, a lot of the time it's quite sad, but that's just the way it is. So you've heard about like loads of the stuff that I loved about the 80s. Probably a couple of things that I don't, I'm so glad to see the back of is things like, sat nav or whatever, or, you need to find an answer for something. You can literally go now onto, Google, or if you want to work out how something works or, fit something or, fix something, I just jump onto YouTube and go, how do you do this? What about this? I'm thinking of buying this. What's the best one to buy? I love that. That is the one thing about technology that I absolutely love more than anything in the world. If I get lost, there's no like pulling out a massive map and trying to read it and work out where I'm going and all this. I literally have my phone or a sat nav or whatever it is, and I just turn left, turn right. It's just so it's simple but absolutely brilliant. And then yeah, and so those are the things that I'm so glad of 2025 rather than 1980. But yeah, sorry, I've waffled on. I'm probably loads of this stuff. You're like, what? What's he talking about? But I just really wanted to make this video. I really wanted to jump on and share this. And I really, really would be so cool if we could get some comments down below and let me know what your childhood was like in the 80s. I probably missed out a million and one things, and I do apologize. And there's so many subjects that you can talk about growing up 40 or 50 years ago. But yeah, I'd love to. I'm fascinated to know, and it's such a cool little sort of subject to talk about. So yeah, thanks very much for watching. Sorry for waffling. It's a real long one, this one. I've tried to condense it down, but it's just impossible. And yeah, like, subscribe, comment below, and I'll see you in another video. Take care. Bye.